Fresh, let's roll with it. Let's go to the first conference championship game of the week. This game is going to be played on Friday night at 8 p.m. That's the Utah Utes playing the USC Trojans. This game is going to be played in Las Vegas. We got USC is a 2.5 point favorite right now. Over under is set at 68 points here. This is a matchup here, Fresh, because I like this matchup because we have a lot of storylines in this game. USC's only loss on the season is a 1 point loss at Utah. That game was USC was out in front in that game, and Utah comes storming back in it. It winds up being a shootout for the ages. Are we going to see more fireworks in Vegas? Are they going to light up the scoreboard like the Strip? What we got going on, Fresh? Give me something about USC Utah.
I mean, this is another great matchup. You have, best defense in the Pac-12 versus the best offense. A team that has been there before in Utah. They had this exact same situation last year. They beat Oregon, and everyone's like, "Oh, Oregon's high flying, and here come Vegas. They'll get redemption." And Utah beat them even worse in the rematch. A couple weeks later, right there in Vegas, and went on to the Rose Bowl. Uh, this USC team flying high after two huge wins over UCLA and Notre Dame to finish off. Really, I honestly think Caleb Williams put him into the serious conversation for the Heisman Trophy and might actually have won it. If he can put on a show on Friday night, he might supplant himself as the trophy winner. It's going to be that kind of wills though, and I kind of great defense from Kyle Whittingham, great offense from Lincoln Riley, and looking at the replay, in the of the last game, looking at the preview, and just sort of thinking like what could happen in this ball game. The one thing that really stunned me was this is a very similar setup to the 2017 Rose Bowl between Georgia and Oklahoma. Oklahoma comes in with the flashy quarterback, the high explosive offense, not much of a defense, and Georgia came into that with an offense that's kind of underregarded. Had times where they were great, had times where they kind of inconsistent, but the defense was really good, and no one really knew what to expect. Oklahoma, burst out to the huge lead under Lincoln Riley and Baker Mayfield, and then as the game went on, Georgia just kept churning away, found a way to get stops, took it to overtime, and won the football game late. Nothing spectacular except they ran the ball and played defense in the second half. And I kind of think that's the exact same philosophy that happened in that first game, and I think it's going to happen in this one, where that Utah defense is going to keep them in the football game for the full 4 quarters. They're going to make it a ball game, and then Kincaid, Thomas, Rising from that Utah offense will be able to move the football against a pretty porous defense there for the Trojans. They give up a ton of yards and a ton of points, but they do get turnovers that kind of minimizes that defects and makes up for and covers for them a little bit. They rarely get those interceptions, those fumbles that make up for a lot of chunk plays and yards and points they do give up. Um, it's going to be interesting to see how USC handles the moment, though. Like, none of these players have been in this situation. They had 2 great games so far, but this is a championship on the line. Caleb Williams hasn't played in one. Jordan Addison is the only one I think that actually truly played in the conference title game when he played last year with Pitt. Uh, well, maybe Travis Dye's not playing with Oregon, so he can't be counted in this football game. There's a lot of guys who have not been in this moment. Lincoln Riley, as the head coach, has, but players have not. How are they going to handle the excitement, the glitz, the glamour, everybody on them? Utah, there's almost a good chunk of this team, including Phillips in the secondary, and then most of those guys in the secondary actually have been here before. They went through this last year. They played the Rose Bowl. They played the Pac-12 title game. They won it when nobody gave them a chance. They have that swagger, that professionalism, if you will, about them that I think will pay off dividends in the football game. Um, USC has everything in front of them. If they come into this football game and just take care of business, they don't have to win sexy, in my opinion. They just need to win. If they win, they're probably going to the playoff. Um, and so actually adds to the pressure of they can't bleep up. If they trip up, unlike other teams like Michigan, TCU, or Georgia, who if they lose, they actually technically maybe still could get in the playoff. USC doesn't have that luxury because they already lost one game. And if they lose to Utah twice, that's the biggest blessing in the world for Ohio State and Alabama. And I really think the entire state of Ohio and all those Ohio State Buckeye fans in Florida and Arizona all across the country, they're probably bigger Utah fans than the Utah fans this week. Um, when it all comes down to it, I just think that Caleb Williams, the way he's played, the way the offense has progressed all season long, they just have enough to get it done. I don't think Utah does not have the explosiveness or veteran leadership on defense like they had last year. And I think USC continues to build a wave of momentum. They will not dominate, but Caleb Williams will find a way to put up some touchdowns and get this thing get this victory for USC and keep them on the national stage. But the one thing to keep an eye on, how that Utah offensive line plays. If they're able to control the line of scrimmage, protect Rising, let them get the ball to Kincaid and the receivers, and let Thomas and the running backs move, that could be the biggest deciding factor. Where does that USC defensive line? How do they get pressure? And if they're being manhandled, they might be able to kill the clock and find ways to keep Williams and that offense off on the sideline. But I think in the end, USC finds a way to get it done. They get just enough points. They win the Pac-12 and move on, most likely, to the playoff.
So if USC wins, to me, they're definitely in. If they win this game, they deserve to be in the playoff. They're a one-loss conference championship team, and they've gotten revenge for the one loss they have on the season. Interesting for when I was looking at Utah here fresh, one of the interesting things I saw, Tavion Thomas did not play last week versus Colorado. The starting running back was Micah Bernard. Tavion Thomas has been in and out of the doghouse this year, has only 142 carries. Remember at the beginning of the year, they were kind of holding him out. Again, we don't have injury reports here, so they're listing him as still active. So I don't know if he's done something else to get himself in the doghouse here. It was weird that he didn't play in that Colorado game to me. It was a little weird they didn't play. Now, Colorado's not a very good team. Maybe they decided, hey, we're not going to make him run. Maybe he was a little bit banged up. Maybe we're going to say, no, we're playing for a conference title. It just was a little shocking they didn't get any carries in that game to me. Cameron Rising has done exactly what we thought he would do this year. He takes care of the football. He makes the smart pass, and he utilizes Kincaid quite a bit there. I really like Dalton Kincaid. I know me and you have talked about this throughout the year. I think Dalton Kincaid is one of the most disrespected tight ends in the country. I don't think he gets enough love that he should. That dude is a beast over there in Utah. For me, USC, yeah, USC is going to put up points. We saw earlier in the year, Utah was able to hang with USC. If Utah is able to go punch for punch with them, then I think the Trojans may be in trouble here. But I really think that USC's offensive firepower will eventually overwhelm the Utah defense. The one thing, if you're going to really watch this, if you want to know how this game's going to get going, I'm watching Clark Phillips III, 6 interceptions on the year, versus Addison. That is the marquee matchup. Addison's maybe top 3 wide receiver in the country. Clark Phillips, top 3 cornerback in the country. Both these guys are going to be playing football on Sunday next year. These are great players here. Make sure when you're watching this game, you highlight those 2 players. Take a look at them. Look at that matchup. Who's winning that matchup? Is Caleb Williams finding Addison? Is he finding Jordan Addison down the field? If he's throwing to the opposite side of the field. Last year, in the first round of the playoffs, Sauce Gardner, Alabama didn't throw a single pass to his side of the field. He shut down the entire field. Now, Alabama had the skill positions on the other side to make it Cincinnati pay for it. But it's interesting to see if Caleb Williams is able to win that matchup there. Is he able to deliver the ball to Addison in there? I was impressed with Austin Jones last week versus Notre Dame. I'm not going to call him out again this year. He looked really, really good in this game. Expect him to get a lot more carries going in, especially with how he played against that Notre Dame defense. I think Notre Dame and Utah have a similar type of defense there. So I'm going to take the Trojans as well. I like the Trojans and the points here. I think USC is going to win by a touchdown this game.
Yeah, I mean, the great point there about Thomas being in the doghouse all year long, and you kind of hope when you kind of knew what that matchup was going to be, and you're playing Colorado at that point, you save your guys, get them healthy. If there's every injury concern, so you wanted some rest, get them ready for this game because you're going to need all your horses take on the Trojans. I picked this matchup at the very beginning of the year, USC, Utah. I had Utah winning the first one in my projections, and I figured USC was winning this one, so I got to stick with them. But it should be an exciting game to kick off a great championship weekend.